I'm sick and tired of Christians just sitting back and saying, I'll pray about that, doing nothing. That's why God's not answering your prayer. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic. Also, God is really sassy to Moses about this, but we're going to get there. I grew up with a long prayer list because I was told to say that I was going to pray for somebody about whatever they said. Like they would give me an issue in their life. I'm going to pray about it. I'd write it down. There was a big issue in the world. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to write it down. I had a huge prayer list, like pages and pages, and every day I'd take it out and I'd rub the genie in the bottle and say my prayers to God, and nothing would happen. And I would be really frustrated because God wasn't answering my prayers. God wasn't being my genie in a bottle. First off, I was taught a very toxic transactional view of prayer, that prayer was somehow, again, God being a vending machine or a genie in a bottle that I'd put my prayer quarter in and I'd make my selection and out would come a Coke. And yes, I'm old. I could buy Coke for a quarter, actually 35 cents. And when stuff didn't happen, people would say, oh, you just have to have faith. You just have to really believe when you pray. Believe it and confess it, and God's gonna do it. God didn't give me an A on the test. God didn't give that homeless person a home. And God didn't stop my friend's mom from abusing her. Because that's not what prayer is. And that's not how God works in the Bible. There's in James, it says, faith without action is dead. And it's not just talking about beliefs, in my opinion. It's saying that, like, you can't just have faith and do nothing. You can't just pray and sit back and wait for God to do something. Yeah. In Exodus chapter 14, they're in a really hard place. They're scared. The Pharaoh is coming after them after letting them go. And they're sitting there praying and praying to God. And God says, why are you still crying out to me? Tell them to move on. And then they take action. And the beautiful, wonderful, crazy miracle happens when Moses puts out his staff. And eventually the sea is parted. But it's because they took action. So here's the deal. If you want the world to be a better place, you have to work for it. If you want an A on the test, you got to learn and you got to study for it. If you want the homeless person to find a home, you've got to help them find an agency that will help them find a home. And if you want the person in the abusive relationship with your friend to stop, you've got to, in my case, call the DHR, the Human Services part of the government, and report it. Or you've got to help them get to some sort of crisis center so that they can have a place to stay and have people that work them through the process of letting go of that abusive relationship. You don't have to believe in miracles. Over and over in the Bible, the people of God are told to take action. If you want something to change, do something about it. And yeah, pray, process things with God, and maybe make your prayer more about grounding you and having, I don't know, a sense of a relationship with God. But don't just sit back and say, I'm going to pray about that and then do nothing. Your grieving friend doesn't need random prayers. They need you to sit next to them. And if you don't like what the politicians are doing, vote, organize. That's what you do. And yeah, I'm a little irritated about this because evangelicalism lulled me to sleep and taught me something that made me not take action, to have this very trite, very easy thing that I could do and I could say that would make me feel better and me be able to be lazy. So stop laying back and saying I'm going to pray about it and do something.